All right, everyone, we have the Valero Texas Open. Going to be covering all the final touches for this tournament. As you guys can see below me, that's the curtain call. We're going to be going over prize picks and underdog, the round one showdown and betting for the round one, so first round leader. Going to get into some outrights, going to get into some ownership plays, some fades and leverage spots. Don't really need to touch on the value report too much, and then we're going to get into the lineup process, the lineup builder. So just real quickly, let's take a peek at the playing conditions for this tournament. I typically like to look at daily. We can see weather is not going to be an issue, although it is Texas. We could see that potentially change, but weather has been pretty good for the most part. All right, so looking at it, I do just want to start off with looking at the strokes props because we can compare that to underdog right away to find that we are getting some edges there. And just a reminder, if you guys want to play on underdog, there is a link available in the description of this video that is a partnership link for me. If you guys join Underdog using that link, it kicks back money to the channel, which helps me be able to keep really pumping out this content and keep the prices on the 9 to 5 membership the way they are, which is $10 a month. So if we look at it, we are seeing some discrepancies across underdog and prize picks here. So underdog is going to be valuing these golfers about half a stroke easier than is prize picks. So we got Seb Straka at 71.5 strokes. If we look at prize picks, they have it set at 72. Okay, now the average scoring at this course is a little bit under par. And so for the most part, Seb Straka does look like he is the best value on the board today or for tomorrow's slate for prize picks. And if you guys are disagreeing with that, well, obviously we are getting a half of a prop on underdog, thus you could bet the over there. And honestly, you could probably do both. If the course plays harder, we're getting a big edge on underdog. If the course plays easier than expected, we're getting a big edge on prize picks. It can go both ways. And that's kind of the beauty, is that we always seem to see some sort of discrepancy. And the nice thing about prize picks, line being set at even, is that if it's a push, oh well. On underdog, if it's even and it's a push, obviously we don't win then. So continuing on, we can see Ricky Fowler. I don't mind betting the under here. It's not a big edge here, but he is projected to go under. This line on underdog is set at 70.5. So we're getting a pretty big edge there for him. And then that's going to be the same for Matt Kuchar at 70.5 and also Siwoo Kim. The thing about Ricky Fowler and Siwoo Kim is they are the best two players projection-wise in the field this week. The only worry with those two is that they have an afternoon tee time, and I think that's why they're getting the same sort of score projection as is Matt Kuchar. Now, once again, the weather isn't projected to be too bad, but that's a small variable that can add up to being something significant. So once again, if we look here, we can see like betting the under on prize picks would be the way to go there. I also do want to point out the birdie or betters, and this is pretty crazy. So we already had them all projected to go under. This is typically a harder scoring tournament to get a lot of birdies on, okay? If we round up, it's about 4 per round. We can see that is what the line is coming in at here. And so the move here would actually be to bet the lower on underdog, okay? And if we want to factor in maybe potential injury risk with someone like Terrell Hatton, who last week had a wrist injury, this could be an interesting one. It might be harder for him to get some birdies. And so we are getting a big edge on underdog by betting the under birdie or betters at 4.5. Now, once again, this could be a situation where we do both. A half of a stroke is a lot. In this situation, half of a birdie is a lot. We could bet the unders over here, and actually they have dropped a couple of players a little bit for birdie or better already, but we could bet the unders over here and then come back over here and possibly bet the over. That would not be a terrible route. And then in general, let's just look at the best props that we're getting edgewise. So the best over ones we could do is Bhatia over Carson Young, birdie or better. Could do that. I don't really love to do those ones too much. We got Chris Kirk, birdie or better over Peter Malnati, Terrell Hatton over Trey Mullinax. That's not a terrible way to hedge the underdog lower than 4.5 birdie or better there. If he gets more than that, he should be beating Trey Mullinax in birdie or better. Corey Connors over Cam Davis. Now, if we flip it around, we can see that, once again, the unders for the birdie or better should be the way to go. But if we're doing that, might as well do it on underdog. And then while we're here, I do just want to remind you guys about the drafts that underdog has available for each tournament. This pretty much operates like a showdown slate, but the only difference is that people haven't caught on to it just yet. There is still some big edges there because they're not treating it like a showdown slate. And the reason why we've had a lot of success with showdown slates is, one, the data coming into it, which can be found on the betting tab here, but it's mostly just attacking it properly by using the AM only guys and the golfers that are expected to play well. So I just want to call out this tool I updated here, guys. I'm excited for this tool. Okay, so here we go. We can go to bet type and first round leader. That's going to sort it by all these different sportsbooks here. So if you guys are someone that likes to shop around for the best odds, you can do that. What we can also do is go to this little tab right here, the optional metrics. We can also add in more sportsbooks there. We can also go to rank. This is going to be like the rank for that specific category, the bet type. So if we sort by first round leader rank, we can see which golfers are expected to have the first round lead. We could also then go by early tee times. Okay, I'm very excited for this. And so thus we can see which golfers are expected to play well out of the early AM. Okay, this is kind of just a unique way of stacking it. So let's just talk about round one showdown and betting. This would be the way to go. You could go Sam Ryder, Thomas Dietrich, Andrew Putnam, Matt Kuchar, Brennan Todd, Nick Taylor. And typically speaking, I just like to bet the top 7 to have the first round lead. Doing that thus far this season, and for the past year now, has hit over 50% of the time. Now, it's not too crazy, just given the fact that there's multiple first-round leaders, okay? But by doing this is another kind of application of how we can be successful by doing a best ball draft like that. It's already going to be broken down like a showdown slate because of that. And so I do just want to call out, let's see which lineup path is going to be the best here. So let's go to the round 1, and we have to start with 2 data points. So maybe let's go Putnam, give him a slight bump in projection just to tell the data that we want it, and then maybe Matt Kuchar as well. The issue that we see on this early round 1 showdown by attacking the early AM is that we are fading a bunch of the best players in the field, projection-wise. So that's my biggest worry. But let's go to settings here. Max exposure, let's do 30%. And I want at least 3 unique players. Let's go ahead and do that. Okay, let's click generate, and we can see which players are going to be the top players for round 1 showdown build-wise. All right, here we go. We can see the player statistics, total exposures, and we can see which players we're getting the most exposure to. Kind of as simple as that. Let's go ahead and look at the outrights. And once again, like, we can do all this stuff. It's pretty awesome. I'm excited for this update, in case you guys can't tell, because it is nice to shop around and find the best lines. So of the early AMT times, we can see the odds rank. We start by average, and then we can see the odds rank as well. So we could potentially do some bets on Matt Kuchar. And if we were going to do a bet on Matt Kuchar, where would we want to do it on? Well, probably a site like FanDuel. We're getting 30-1 odds there. Okay. And guys, I don't actually typically recommend betting on multiple sites, because if you're betting on multiple sites, you're not going to have as good a bankroll management. Thus, you're just not going to be as successful as what I've tended to see. You're just scatterbrained pretty much, because you're going 50 different places. And so it's harder to track your success. And so I actually don't mind Nick Taylor. We look at his win rank here, 8th, which is huge. And you look at his odds rank there, we are gaining a pretty big edge there. So the difference is pretty great. I still don't mind Hogard there as well. Let's just take a look at the full slate, because I do think it would be a mistake not to bet on Ricky Fowler and possibly even Terrell Hatton. So if we knew that Terrell Hatton was healthy, we would just be automatically betting him. And we can see pretty much across the board, his average odds are 12.5. Okay, that's not terrible for a top player in the field. If there wasn't any concern for his wrist injury, we would just be betting him a ton, okay? We would be feeling good about him as a bet. But we do have some concerns over that wrist, so I don't know if we can actually bet him. I would be perfectly fine betting Ricky Fowler and Siwoo Kim. We look at someone like Ricky Fowler, he's really coming in, checking all the boxes, minus that missed cut at this event last year. And we know he just wasn't the same caliber of player he is right now. I mean, he's a top 20 player in the world right now. I put this up on a Twitter post. Hey, is Ricky Fowler top 20 player in the world right now? And it's no right now. It is yes. I'm sorry. Especially when you exclude the live golf players because they're just not playing enough golf. It's tough to say Ricky is in top 20 in the world right now. And I would say the recent starts would suggest that as well. We get over his past 10 starts, really coming in with strong form. He's a top 9 specialist, coming in as the top player in the field. He is due for a win. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that he needs to win, is the fact that everyone's talking about him winning. That's my biggest worry with him. It's a little bit of extra added pressure that he probably hasn't felt for quite a while. Then from there, we have Siwoo Kim. I'm fine betting Siwoo Kim. But like I said, literally the top players in the field are all having that early or that late tee time, that PM AM split. So it's just kind of interesting there. Kind of worrisome for me, actually. But because the field is so spread out, we are getting some pretty good odds on these players. We can get 20-1 on Siwoo Kim. That's huge to me. And so maybe this is a slate in which maybe we keep our betting card a little bit smaller than typical. I typically like to do 5% of the field. I probably will still do that, which is about 7 players. But if you just want to do Siwoo, Hatton, and Ricky and stop there, I would get it. Siwoo Kim is really just coming in, checking all the boxes. 3rd best specialist. Great results here at this tournament. Great stat fit. 2nd best pick in the 95 mile. As simple as that. And then if we continue on, I do like Ryan Fox, okay? Also has the late tee time. And so that kind of does get me to want to bet some early guys just in case. The issue with that is I don't really like that many of the early guys that we are getting. Hogard is really the only one that I want to bet. The issue that I have with Ryan Fox and Hogard is the simple fact that both of them, when they needed to make putts, didn't, okay? Ryan Fox should have danced out of his group last week. He didn't because he couldn't make a putt. Hogard could have easily won. He lost by 1 last week. If he makes a couple more putts, he missed like a tap-in, he probably wins. Okay, so how are they going to be mentally after having, kind of some poor putts be costly? Let's go ahead and look at ownership. So what I find extremely interesting is that Beau Hossler is coming in as really just a terrible play. He has to finish top 30 or better to reward this price tag, and he's coming in as a fade. The leverage rank tag is telling us to fade him because he's being overvalued by the field, and that's simply going to be, I think, because of his course history. Like, I'll pull up him here. What gives us any sort of indication that Beau Hossler is going to go out and play well besides the local ties to Texas and besides the good results here at this tournament? And it's not like he's cheap. It's not like he's a cheap flyer play, and it's not like he's coming in low owned. Like, oh, we got a low owned player with great course history, let's be overweight in the field. No, he is coming in pretty chalky, and thus, like, why would we play him? It seems like a risk we don't need to take, especially when there's other players around his price point that we could easily be on instead. And he's coming in as a terrible play as well. Like, nothing suggests that we should be rostering him more than 4 or 5%. And so to me, this is like an easy fade. If he hits, oh well, like, we know it's the correct decision. And for what it's worth, like, we can see the other players that are priced around him. We got Andrew Putnam, who's a better play. We got Brendan Todd, who's a better play. Sam Ryder, who's a better play. Aaron Rye, Hogard, who's a better play. Okay, like Smalley, Nick Taylor. Like, there's so many just as good plays around him that you could easily see why he's being overvalued. And so if we continue on, Eric Cole, 6%, not too much. Davis Thompson, at 8.1, we'd rather play Hogard for sure. Patton Kazire, like, these are kind of just easy fades. Like, there's no reason to be going out of our way to play them. Now, Nick Taylor is gaining some ownership. He's coming in, starting to turn orange where, caution could fade him. And then for what it's worth, like, Siwoo Kim is coming in as someone that if he starts to trick up a little bit more in terms of ownership, like if he gets to 27 projection, then we're probably fading him. But as it sits right now, still a little bit too low. But because Siwoo is such a high owned player, we're seeing someone like Hideki coming in extremely low owned and coming in as the top leverage play on the slate. It makes sense because the other players around him are being valued more than him. And obviously he's been struggling a little bit recently, but in terms of how he's projected to do and in terms of his ownership, it's a great leverage spot. Ben Griffin as well. Ben Griffin has been playing some extremely good golf. I know it's a tough price tag to pay up for, and I've struggled with that as well. But we could easily end up on him. We got Thomas Dietrich. 12%, you would think that'd be a lot, but apparently not. Terrell Hatton as well. So just some interesting stuff there. And if we're just looking at it in terms of a salary thing, Ricky Fowler actually slightly under-owned, probably should be around 24% owned, but pretty much properly owned. And we can see that across the board. Let's see. Davis Thompson is the only one sticking out in terms of like players we don't need to be playing at 8.1. Adam Schenk is actually a better play. We can get to Cam Davis, who I never like to play. Oh, sorry. That's Thomas Dietrich. Okay. Then we got Bazunhout and Ben Griffin popping up there as well. Let's continue on. We can see we have a lot of red, a lot of players that like are just being overvalued, whether it be slightly or full on fade, just given how they're projected to do. So it is a week in which could be a good ownership leverage week. And that's literally why I made this tool. So it's not just like we're saying, oh, this guy's overowned, we need to fade them. No, we have actual data points that go into it that are 7% better at predicting good chalk and bad chalk than the field on average each week. That's what this tool does. And so this could be a big asset this week. Like I said, I don't really want to touch on the leverage reports. There's just not that much that goes into it this week. I mean, just real quick, Sam Stevens is actually popping up in there. Andrew Putnam, Sam Ryder, Thomas Dietrich, FanDuel value. Sam Stevens again, Nick Hardy, Sam Ryder, Ryan Fox. So Ryan Fox on FanDuel is someone we can play. And then let's look at Yahoo. I'm just not touching Yahoo this week. All right, let's get into the lineup builder. All right, so the first thing we have to do each week is tell the lineup builder 2 data points that we want to kind of focus in on, I guess. So Ricky Fowler, I know I want to be on a lot. And then Siwoo Kim, I know I want to be on a lot. Okay, let's do 110. Those are the 2 players I feel like we should be going out of our way to play. Then I will say Ben Martin, as current price tag, does seem to be a little bit too low. I'm also going to give him a bump in his fantasy projection. So if we just go ahead and run this, let's just do 20 lineups to start with. And just run it. We'll see those players will be pulling in the most. So we got Siwoo Kim, Ben Griffin, and Ricky Fowler at 20%. Did I do 20 here instead? I did. I meant to do 30. So that's like step 1, just to see. And then we can also see which players might be coming in overvalued that we don't want to be on that much. So Sam Ryder, Sam Stevens. What we can do right away is go to show usage, click on the time that we ran that build, and now we can sort it by players that are over-owned here that we don't want to be on, like Taylor Montgomery, maybe just 10%, maybe 5%, not exactly someone I want to go out of my way to play. JJ Spawn as well, not exactly someone I'm trying to go out of my way to play. Matt Wallace, I'm fine with, but let's do 15%. Adam Shake, I'm also fine with, but let's do 15%. Aaron Ryan, Brennan Todd are both fine plays. Let's do 10. Bo Hosler, once again, I don't want to be overweight in the field. I think it's good to fade him, but let's just do 2%. Let's not do a full on fade. And that's the thing. I never like to fully take out players out of this. I more or less just, all right, let's tell it what we want, but also let it operate the way it wants to as well. So the one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go to settings. I'm going to set a player group. I want at least one of Ricky or Siwoo in my builds saved. And so when I click generate, it's going to pop up like this because I have the max exposure set at 30%. Obviously, math-wise, if we do that, that's 30 plus 30 is 60%. So that's leaving about 40% of builds where it doesn't know what exactly to do. So what I went ahead and did is I just set the settings to 50%. And if anyone's coming in over-owned that I don't want to be on that much, let's say Thomas Dietrich, Ben Griffin, then we can change it. Andrew Putnam, Sam Ryder, we can adjust that once again by going to show usage and then come here. Sort by ownership. It's already sorted by that. You know, Ryan Fox, I like as a play. Let's do 38%. I think he's a very strong play. Ben Griffin, I also think is a strong play. Let's do 25%. Thomas Dietrich, 20%. Hogard, I really like. Let's do 38%. Andrew Putnam, I'm fine with. Sam Ryder is all right. Nick Taylor, I'm fine with. Let's do 25. Ben Martin, I probably want more of. And so this is a way that we can get unique with it. So we generate again. It's going to work. And now it's pulling in a lot of Ben Martin and Matt Kuchar. So that's just a simple way to go about doing this. The more players we put into it, the more you can kind of tell it what you want it to do as well. So another thing we can do is go to the 9-to-5 player pool, which is available for 9-to-5 members on the website. We can see, all right, Ricky Fowler, Siwoo Kim, we see we want to be on a lot. And so we can set rules for like literally this top portion. And so maybe we do another rule that says at least 2 of Fox, Hogard, Martin, Hatton, Connors, and Griffin in builds as well. And then if we run that, we can see we're getting a lot more exposure to some of those players. I did toss in Ben Martin there. He's coming in a lot because he is just kind of the clear-cut, underpriced play this week. So we could easily end up on him, and then we're getting a lot of Corey Connors, Ryan Fox, and those are going to be paired with the other top 2 players, which are Siwoo Kim, Ricky Fowler. The only player that we're not getting a lot of is going to be Terrell Hatton. We might have to bump up his projection or potentially lock him in a little bit. So let's say we wanted some more of Terrell Hatton. We could lock him in, and he's at 20%. We could lock him at like 20% projected ownership. That way we're being even weight with the field. And obviously it's pulling in a lot of Ben Martin. So the reason it's pulling in a lot of Ben Martin is because more times than not, the values that we are getting on the slate are not going to be like popping up in there too much into the optimal build. It makes sense. Like they're only okay plays. And so we can adjust for that. And so we go back to the player pool. We can see Norlander, Rye, Taylor, Duncan, Glover, Piercy, Kim, Goya, Kevin Chappell, Andrew Novak. Those are all players that I want to be on. So what we can do is we can bump up the projections of these players as well. And Kevin Chappell, just as price tag, is very easy to make work in builds. You could definitely go out of your way to play him and hope for the upside to be there. And so now we'll see a lot more of those lower price point value plays popping up into these builds. Another way we could go about doing that, and I don't know if I exactly want to do this, is that we could do another rule is like when a lineup includes Ricky Fowler, have at least one of, and we can go down the list of players that are a little bit underpriced that we want to go out of our way to play. And so this is another way that we could potentially use that leverage report to find some good values to be on, to be overweight in the field. And one player that I've gotten on because he made the tournament now is Dylan Wu. Don't be mistaken for Brandon Wu. Dylan Wu has been playing some pretty good golf. I could see us ending up on him. And so now that I have that rule in there as well, so when a lineup includes Ricky Fowler, I want at least one of those other players. So when we run that, it's going to be spitting out that a little bit more. Obviously, we're getting a lot of Ben Martin. I'm probably going to adjust that. So let's just take him down a little bit. And so I put him at 40%, and now we can see we're getting a lot of Ricky Fowler, and then the rest of the players are going to be spread out. Now, probably want to cap David Lingworth as well, but let's go ahead and do 150 lineups. And so now we can see that because we are doing 150 lineups, we're letting a lot more data enter it, so thus the ownerships are being spread out kind of properly. It's not forcing in more players into builds to be optimal, okay? And then the last step we could potentially do as well is do max exposure. We could do 70%. And because this week is pretty random, we can also increase this to about 10% randomness as well. If we wanted to do even further, we could do 3 unique players. But let's go ahead and run this. So because we are spreading out the ownerships by capping it at 70, we are going to see it be a lot more fluctuation in terms of who we're going to be on. And so the list goes a lot deeper then. But that's the easy way to go about building that. That's all I have for you guys for this video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Let's have a good Valero Texas Open. We have the Masters next week, which is always an interesting week. There's a lot more casuals coming in, but it's probably the least favorable DFS fantasy golf tournament of the season in terms of the field. But there are a lot of great contest sizes, so we kind of gain an edge there by a lot more of the general public playing. So let's have a good week. Let's have a good slate. And as always, let's keep cashing.